Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Council for Military Spouse Clubs Leadership Roundtable. This particular roundtable is going to be all about the administrative vice president role, which some people call the operational vice president, and other call them all sorts of other things like second VP, or I don't know, has anybody heard any other names that they're called? It's one of those ones that kind of switches around based on your club. One of the things we're going to say up front before we get into this is we have found at the council by talking within our board members is that this role varies greatly between all the clubs. And one of the things that is the biggest thing is that in Army clubs, the operational VP is responsible for the monthly socials. And in the Air Force clubs, there's a secondary person called an events chairperson who runs the monthly socials, and the administrative vice president kind of oversees that, but is not directly responsible. So we'll get into that as we do this. And what we've done in the past with our roundtables is we look at the job descriptions and kind of talk about it, and then kind of go through some questions that people may have, or some, hey, we don't do it that way at our club kind of comments and whatnot. So that's kind of fun. So here today with us from the council, we have me. My name is Carolyn Chrisman. I'm the CEO, and I'll let everybody else introduce themselves. Rhonda, you can go next since you're up next.
I'm Rhonda Fingal, and I'm the CFO, and I am living in Colorado Springs right now.
Sweet.
Colorado.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Carly Goodell. I'm the CCO, and I am at Fort Leavenworth right now.
Tayaka is driving right now, so we'll see.
Hi. I think we're good. I am Tayaka. I am the Chief People Officer, and I am currently in Virginia. So welcome and hi.
Awesome. Okay. So we'll get started. And basically, kind of what I said in the beginning, we're here to describe the job description and the administrative role. We'd really love to have some discussion about what you guys have seen work and not work at other installations. And then feel free to offer any ideas or thoughts about what we need to change or what efforts worked well in your organization that you'd like to share with others. Okay, so up first. And I don't know if these are big enough words for everybody. Hopefully you can see them, but essentially what we have here is an administrative vice president job description. And we have it broken down into, basically general job description, what you have to do to be a board member, and then specific job description. So starting out, as I mentioned before, you'll find that some of the operational VPs call them first VP, which means they're second in command to the president. Someone will call them the second VP, which means there's a first VP in between the two of them. Again, that's one of the things you really have to look at your bylaws and find out where your particular position falls in the line of succession. And then, as I mentioned earlier, in Army spouse clubs, a lot of them are in charge of the club's monthly events versus in Air Force and other clubs where they have a separate position for that. So, anybody else want to go through some of these ideas and job descriptions? There we go. Oh, here we go. Here's Vince. Great. How you doing? Thanks for joining.
I'm so sorry. I saw 7 o'clock, but wrong.
Right. I know it's really hard because we have people all over the. So we have to pick a time and just stick with that instead of trying to make it right for everyone. So that's okay. The big thing we've done so far is just really got started on the difference between Army clubs and Air Force clubs in their operational VP role, and the difference of succession. Some clubs call this a second VP, some clubs call this a first VP. So it just depends on your club, which should all be listed in your bylaws. Okay, so let's see. Carly, you want to go over any of these? Some of these first ones are all about, reporting to you as a president.
Yeah, I have to zoom in because I'm on my phone. So hold on.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I totally put you on the spot because of that. Whoops.
Technology.
I feel like since ironically Vince and I work together in this role, so we can
how
yeah,
fun.
so Vince is our second VP and I am the president. So I think we've kind of found our niche into working together. It's definitely a collaboration and I feel like that's essential. Hold on. I feel like that's essential. If you can get your second VP, first VP, whoever, they need to be having a great working relationship with the president because we do bounce back and forth ideas or whatever. And I try to tell Vince, like, when it comes down to it, it's your ideas and what you want to do. But I feel like as the president, we kind of set up like maybe the bones of it before the year starts. Like I was really big on, I really wanted to have these nonprofits, you know, every year. I wanted to have like one from on post, one from off post that we support. And of course, like, you know, that's something that Vince and I had to talk about. So we would sit down together at the beginning of the year and say like, okay, so we're doing the Hunger Games for our first social. So Monica's Food Pantry would be a great nonprofit to have. So it doesn't always work out like that way where it could be a perfect match, but we try to go with the months and, you know, figure that out together. But I don't know, that's just that part, that personal experience. I'm sorry, my dogs.
Okay, so your whoever's doing your like service project for the month is also falls under the operational vice president.
So we've kind of made it that way. That way, like Vince is in the know of like who's coming, but that's where I'm saying it is so important that we all work together. So anyway, just the collaboration between the three, like the president, first VP, second VP is so vital and important. And if you guys are working well together, then it's going to be a smooth ran operation, I feel like. And that goes for, you know, we're you kind of making it all a team effort is really important.
Okay. And the one thing I wanted to ask you about on this, just as an example for your club, does your second VP, which I think you said is what you have in your club, does this person serve on the budget committee, the nominating committee, and the Constitution Bylaw committee based on being a VP, just in general?
I think so. I can look that up, but like off the top of my head, I do think that like I don't think that he has to serve on the like grants and scholarships. Yeah,
no.
like
Not a
grants and
nomination?
scholarships. I don't think so.
It's made out of those. It's just the budget is really what I sit on. Would be just the budget committee, but the nomination stuff and what other one that you said, I do not.
Constitution and bylaw
No.
review, which only happens every other year. So, okay. All right. Well, that's interesting because some clubs do it that way. Some clubs don't. And again, these are all what we try to put out is guidelines, not requirements. All right. So continuing as in requirements, you know, these are basic overview things for anybody that serves on your executive board, you know your organization, the mission, be committed to attend board meetings, inform the president if you're unable to go. This particular one is the person that takes the minutes at the meeting if the secretary is unable to do that. They co-sign on the operational bank account. They help with board reports, continuity binders, their own email, elect successors to discuss duties. That's all pretty much straightforward stuff. And then basically you would go to the committee meetings, as we already talked about. The operational VP has a bunch of direct reports, you know, because essentially in the way a lot of clubs divide this is, you know, you have your philanthropic VP on one side, and they have the the community giving and the scholarship kind of, and the fundraisers, stuff that makes money and gives it away on one side. And on the other side, they'll do this operational VP, which is all the internal workings of the club. If you have a wine tasting or you have monthly events or that sort of stuff to run the club kind of falls under the other side. So that's how that's done. A lot of times if you have a operational VP and one of the positions that's considered under them, like maybe membership or reservations or something, the operational VP will try to fill in until you find somebody. But just a caveat to that, so people know, just because you jump in and fill in doesn't mean you get a second board vote. It just means you're filling in until somebody comes along who can fill that role. Okay, so then I think basically the last bit of this job description is basically, you know, one of the things you're going to want to you'll do is make sure any protocol is followed, or greeting. If you have a VIP, like sometimes when I was at one place, the spouse of the congressman for that area would come to our events, and we always try to make sure that it was a lady, had somebody to meet her and make sure she had a place to sit so she wasn't wandering around on her own. So that would be something that VP would want to take over. You work with hospitality, membership, reservations, events, and other things that pull together to make all of your members feel welcome. Assign people so that no one's ever sitting alone, generally work in the background to make sure things are running smoothly. If you're in the Air Force, you're not working in the background. I mean, if you're in the Army, you're not working in the background, you are on it because that's your job. Carly, you have something to jump in on?
Yeah, I think something else that you could add under like who they're working with, and Vince would probably agree. I think that he had a very good working relationship with like our social media manager, because they were working like as soon as the one luncheon was over or social, they were moving right into like posting the graphic for like the next month and all of that stuff. So I thought that was like probably a pretty good, you'd want to know that they work together. And also same with like website, because
And
since
newsletter.
in newsletter, and since he's
Newsletter,
working,
yeah.
yep, and since he's working with our vendor chair and who's doing our advertising and all of that stuff, like he's making sure like they're on the slideshow, he's making sure they're in the newsletter, he's making, you know, on our website. So I would just add those in as like important, like, you know, people to keep in mind that you work with on a monthly basis.
Yeah, those would be the
Awesome.
main big ones in my personal opinion. I mean, obviously it's going to vary if they have a property person, especially. So like property is another big one that I definitely work with because it's cost effective and it's our stuff and it's our, you know, events.
Why don't you tell them how you turn that relationship with, because a lot of people think of property as just kind of like do property.
rental.
It's like it's not like a rental program, kind of like no big deal. And I like the way you took property and kind of spun it with her, and they make a great team. Why don't you share that?
Yeah, so property is essentially, it's like this blend of, yes, managing any assets that we have that we can rent out and bring income to the operation budget. However, to also make money and be cost effective with our socials and any engagement with our members, we work very closely to see what we have. So we are not using so much operational costs, and then come up with the ideas of the theme. So I come with a big idea of like, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z Hunger Games. And they're like, what? I was like, well, this is what I have. And then, you know, with that communication was like, well, we have this, so we can create this X, Y, and Z. So to me, to be cost effective and to really use, as well as it's free advertising to our members that go to the socials to see, oh, these are great decorations, these are great backdrops, that then in turns goes in the circle of now they want to rent it. So it's been very successful in the sense of using the things we have and exposing it and bringing any kind of theme to life.
And to add off of that,
Great.
I think just when you're selling property, if you sell property as in like, hey, do you like to like decorate and party plan and whatever, you're
Right.
gonna get someone in that position who enjoys doing that. Like our girl, it's like every single time it's like she's throwing like an extravagant party, and she just creates a lot out of nothing. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. But she's the perfect person. Not everybody could do that. But if you sell that position like that, you're gonna get that type of person in there, which I thought is awesome.
It's not so logistical as it is creative as well.
Creative.
So it's not just, hey, how many table covers do we have? It's more, hey, the socials, how can we make this fun and exciting and appealing?
So I remember one time when we were Fort Cavazos, it was called Fort Hood then. The property person got together with the VP who was running the socials and said, okay, give me a month where I can decorate every single table differently and showcase what I have in the property room. And so she had a theme by table, not by the whole event, but it was really neat because then you could go, I think she did something where you voted on the best one, or I don't remember what it was all about, but it was just a really great way to showcase what was all there. And it was sort of like, hey, we have all this available and you can rent from us, for cheap. Like,
And they have a
24
large
hurricane.
inventory.
Yeah,
I've seen it. I remember it.
Another thing though
That's
that
right.
she does, which she hasn't got to do it as much as she wants to, but like she's hosted a couple of like the craft nights where it's like you pay like $30, but like for Christmas we made these handmade, she made these handmade wooden, like they look like little toolboxes that they had like Fort Leavenworth stencils on it. We painted it, stained it, whatever. They were really, really nice. It wasn't the typical like craft club where you're like, I made it and I'm gonna kind of, I don't know if I'm going to keep it. It's something that you'd want, but like that centerpiece, you get to keep it. So it's not auctioned off. It's not, but they were made by club members. And that was kind of cool too.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's a great way to combine your sub club, mini club, whatever you call it, into your monthly event. Okay, so we're going to move on to the events job description. And the only reason, like I said, the only reason this is included, and we sort of already segued into this, is because when you have this operational VP position, like we said, some include that, roll that event running into that position, and in others, like in the Air Force side, it's not done that way at all. So they have a separate person who runs their monthly events. And so we have a separate job description just in case. And if you're Army, basically you take the two and mush them together, but Air Force, it would be two different things. And so just real quick, going through this job description, they're, and Vince, you've probably already done this in the beginning, but basically, you set your theme for each event, you determine the location and the cost, you arrange for whatever coordination might be if you have a guest speaker, or, if you're bringing people in to help run a, whose line is it anyway kind of event, whatever you're going to do. And then the decorations, like we already talked about with the loan closets, property room, whatever you guys call them. And then again, I mentioned again that it just depends on what your club does as far as what the responsibilities are, who this comes under. And once again, that the bottom line is they got to understand the board. They have to understand that you have to keep track of everything. You have to follow a budget. You can't just spend whatever you want because it sounds fun. You have to turn in voucher. What do you call it, Rhonda? When they fill out the form, the reimbursement form of some sort.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to fill those out to make sure that even though it's already budgeted, you have to fill that out to make sure you get reimbursed if you pay for anything along the way. And Rhonda, did you have your hand raised? You wanted to jump in on something?
I do. So I'm going to put my financial hat on here, and I'd say probably one of the biggest collaborations as well is working with the operational treasurer, so that they know ahead of time before the event what the cost of the event is, how much money they should be taking in, even whether you're doing it through Square, or whether they're paying at the event. But I've been in clubs where that communication has not been there, and it makes it extremely difficult for the treasurer. So basically, and it sounds like you're great at doing that, but that is probably my number one thing. And then just to keep a great continuity binder of just things that you've done for the events, and just be very precise on the cost and everything, so it's all laid out so that can be passed on, so people aren't reinventing the wheel is a big thing. But key communication with the treasurers is really good.
Perfect. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so next slide is going to be basically continuing along, and it's about responsibilities. And this particular job description basically takes it and breaks it down into, overall, this is the kind of thing you have to worry about when you're having an event. And this is, in my sort of opinion, this is like party planning. That's what you're looking at. And then I have to figure out how to make this bigger because I cannot see it on my screen. Okay. So, and then it's like,
Can't hear you.
making sure you're,
No, I thought it was just me.
oh, you can't hear me?
You were kind of going in and out.
Oh, okay, that's probably my daughter's Wi-Fi, sorry. Okay, so admin, financial, like Rhonda was saying, you got to make sure you're keeping everything within budget. We've had people in the past say, well, everybody's paying this much money when there are this many people coming. That means I have this much to spend. And we're like, no, because you have to pay for the location. You have to pay for freaking tablecloths. You might have to pay an overhead fee for your staff or whatever that's not included in the room rental itself. So if something costs $20, that's not only food. There's a lot more involved in it. And it's just a matter of reining in those people with the great ideas, but not the understanding of how it all comes together. So there you go. Let's see, working with the membership chair, or we used to have a reservations chairperson who you would work with. Working with marketing, like you already said, about getting the social information out, how to register. I'll put my plug in here. I throw it in wherever I can. Make sure if somebody's coming for the first time, they're not walking into a room with people that all know each other but them. Make sure you have somebody who somehow knows that this is their first event. You assign somebody or a group of someone's to be watching for that person that's walking in with the name tag with the red sticker on it, or whatever it is that says, hey, this is the first person. You got to make sure that they feel comfortable and invited and valued, because otherwise they won't come back. And quite honestly, what we hear in the spouse club world all the time is, I went once, it was awful, I'm never going again. And they moved like 3 times. So it's obviously not the same club. And oh, by the way, it's not the same club year after year, because people move and it's all about the people who are running it, not the club itself. So that's my plug, and I'm done with that now. Sorry. Okay. So, execution wise, as I mentioned before, if there is a head table, make sure that's taken care of and people know that there's a head table, and if they're supposed to be sitting there. It's really weird to have a head table with a place card and an empty seat, and that person ends up somewhere else in the room, and it makes it look kind of strange, like they didn't come or something, but they're there. And so, just make sure that's all taken care of. And as we say all the time, whenever you do this, find out what went well, what didn't go well, make notes. When you have vendors who come and do something special for you, like if you had a DJ who came and did something, or if you used a caterer and things went really well, make notes of that so that people can use them again. And if it didn't, make sure you somehow capture that without, totally demeaning the people. But hey, he said he was going to play for an hour and a half. After an hour, he got up and left, and that's not cool. So you want to make sure you have that taken care of in a written form, so that people who come in who weren't here last year or whatever, they know, oh wait, we probably shouldn't hire that person again. We should find somebody else. So those, keeping a close hold on all that information is very beneficial for you. Okay, so that's pretty much the gist of all that we want to talk about, unless anybody has any other ideas. Tayaka's got something to say. We'll see if she can join in from the road.
So I just kind of quickly wanted to jump in and say that from the Air Force side, I know that we have a couple of clubs out there that don't have first and second VPs. It's just one VP. They're typically a smaller board. In that sense, from seeing the job descriptions for both, typically if it's just one VP, they would tend to follow kind of what we're seeing with the operational VP. Because you're overseeing the operations of the club, you're understanding the flow of everything. You are essentially the go-to person for any and everything happening with the club. If the president has a question, you're right there with the answer. If somebody, secretary, treasurer, other has a question, you're right there with the answer in a sense. And I can also, I noticed that, like you said, a couple of other branches have the events included in. For the Air Force, we usually have a sunshine chair that allows for the VP to be freed up to pretty much do the VP stuff, the running of the meetings if the president isn't there. And the sunshine chair is the one that kind of walks around and ensures that everybody is welcome. They're your welcome committee. They're the person that if you have a birthday in the club, they're sending all of that out. So yeah, that's my piece.
I like that sunshine chair. That's such a
I like
fun
it.
title. We used to call it hospitality. Is that what, Carly, what you've seen still?
I'm going to tell
Hospitality chair.
Meredith, though, that from now on, we're going to call Meredith Sunshine Chair because I think she would just,
I literally wrote down sunflower chair since we're Kansas.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
hey, listen, you're supposed to
Aw.
brighten everyone's day up, and you have to give
we
them
had
a
a meeting
sunflower
and you were now the
sticker.
sunflower chair.
Yeah, you're the sunflower
Yeah,
chair.
you need to get her one of those
The headband.
things, with the head and the headband. That'd be perfect.
Gosh.
And anybody would talk to her if you run around with a big flower on your head, right? That'd be perfect.
Yes.
All
I
right.
mean,
Rhonda, what else did you want to jump in and say?
I just want to say I love the collaboration between Carly and Vince. You guys have got it and you're doing it the right way. And it is so important because that collaboration, really it's with everybody on the executive board, but primarily with the president and the vice presidents. And I love how you guys met at the beginning of the year to plan out socials and get a whole agenda going. And then everybody has a path and you can start with. And so I probably can't stress how important that is, like the most important meeting for the 2 or 3 of you to have at the beginning of the year, right after the elections. And that sets the tone for the whole year by doing it and starting that collaboration early. So great job, you guys. I love it.
You know,
kudos to the president.
Vince is
There
a
you go.
fast learner, though. He's got it now.
I just
All
go with the
that's
flow.
fabulous.
That's awesome.
All right, well, that's great. I appreciate everybody joining us today. And for those of you who are watching this recorded later on, if you have any questions that you didn't get answered today, please be sure to send us an email up on there on the screen, contact@council, formsc.org, and reach out. And you can join us on our Facebook page or LinkedIn. We have a Facebook discussion group that you have to be asked to join, and we'll get you in there. And we hope to catch you at one of these future roundtable events or some of the other things we'll be doing in the future. So thanks for joining us and have a great day. All right. Thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.